Tuesday the 7th, a new moon day, 7:15, and this is the kind of sky I got. And you know what, folks? I am going to put this video up whether I do any deep sky or not tonight. And so that's kind of like a vote for the evening. You know, there's clouds, broken clouds, as you can see, to the north and the west, and to the south and to the southeast. But if we go straight back overhead, looks pretty good up there. But you know, the clouds shift around, the night sky air will get cool, water vapor will probably begin to condense. I probably won't get much in the way of any astro, but I'm going to put this video up anyway because it's been about 10 days since I last was able to do something. Of course, you can see the scope inside Penty. One of the things I have noticed is that the mechanical alignment seems to be a bit off. And it shouldn't have changed anything much or any at all because I haven't made any mechanical repositioning of the scope. I mean, I did reset the time to make sure sidereally it's tracking. So I'm hoping I can track down some bright stars and make a few minor adjustments to the mechanics. But I want to show you one thing I did. And that comes down to, as you recall, I ended up putting the balance on the wrong end of the scope. Where the heck is that balance? Right down there. You can see it. So I have to use a little portable balancing scale here. So this is in the counterweight down position, and I got it really good. Now the interesting thing is that I may have fixed the zenith problem I had before. So I'm going to go to menu, I'm going to go to park, I'm going to park it at the zenith, and I'm going to show you the scale again after it rotates about. And you can hear those stepper motors whining. I'll have a look at the scope. This is the east to west position of the scope. This is south looking north. Boy, it sure looks vertical, right? Put a scale on it. Look at that bubble level there on the declination axis and the right ascension axis. I have never, can you see it? Oh, had it in the way. Right ascension axis, once again, declination axis. I've never had it being perfectly balanced before, at the counterweight down and the zenith position before. So I worked at it to get it to look like this. Now I'm going to have to go and track down some stars and make some adjustments as required. Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you this. I haven't done it with this camera before. But if it comes to focus, you should be able to see. It's not coming to focus because I can see that the field. You should be able, oh, it's coming to focus, and you should be able to see Castor in there somewhere. Now, it's only through the finder scope at this point because the main objective is being blocked by the roof tri. Now, I can't tell you, now it's focusing on the. Okay, so we're not really going to make out Castor, but it really wasn't that far off. Let's take a look at some other bright stars to the west. I may make a slight adjustment, however, just to pull it a little closer to the center, just a teeny tiny adjustment. So I just used Procyon, Regulus, and there was another star, Zosma, to do a 3-point alignment after making a minor amount of adjustment to both the declination and to the right ascension. Right now I'm an ORI-hour index error of 2058, the deck index error of minus 1158, polar axis azimuth error of 1951, and a polar axis elevation error of 715. Stepper counts, very, very small. Anything under 3,000 works pretty well in terms of tracking stuff down. That was to the west, so now we're going to have to go east. Not a bad start. I'll save these values and then head towards the right coast. you should be seeing there is an Arcturus. It's a little bit out of focus, and I locked the focus down and it may have lost it. But you know, when I did the west alignment, the third star fell into the field of view. On the east alignment, which may have had stars that are a little further apart, Spica, Arcturus, and Denebola, Arcturus didn't turn up in the field of view. In fact, it was quite a ways off. So I suspect our model parameters are not going to be nearly as tight as they were. And let's have a look at them. Align, model parameters. Ooh, my God, that's terrible. Minus 86,000, minus 6,700, 401, 10,020, 2496. Non-perpendicularities. This is all quite absurd. Wow. I may have to start over again and wipe the east and then do some mechanical adjusts and then see if I can get those. Last time it was at 6,000. Anyway, it looks very bad. I'm not going to report any more about except whether I succeeded or failed in getting better numbers. I got to spend some time on it before it gets dark. The clouds are parting up a little bit, so I may be able to do some deep sky astro this evening on the new moon. Well, I don't know if you can see it there. I think it's over here, but this is Arcturus. Must be some high thin clouds. Something to point out, it turned up in the field, both Arcturus and Spica turned up in the field after a slight mechanical adjustment. But the other thing I noticed was that the parameters were, the last adjustment series was done over the top without previously erasing the old one, which I thought I had done last time out. So double check to make sure you've zeroed out all the settings before you do these alignments. Anyway, so now this time with slight, satellite just blew through. This time with this slight mechanical adjustments, I was able to get to the east. The second and the third star fell into the field of view after the mechanical adjustments and alignment on Denebola. I don't know if you can see him, it's not focusing. Come on, come to focus. Model parameters now are very tight to the east. That doesn't mean they're going to hold to the west. I did make slight mechanical adjustments, but now every one of the parameters is below 3,000. In fact, the largest one is the ordinary hour at 2229 stepper counts. So there we go. First, make sure you clear out the old settings, which I did not do this evening, and second, make only the slightest amount of adjustment to improve over time. I may have to do this over several evenings, and I still have to check to the west. I'm not going to bother because we're going to be looking east this evening. So, moving on, I'll give you a preview of what we're going to be looking at this evening if the sky holds. And what you're seeing here is the alignment of the scope pointing towards NGC 4216, which is probably about half an hour to culmination. And that we're only going to get a look at it later on just because we get such a great look at this wonderful galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 10, 7.8 by 1.8 arc minutes, spiral with a bar, lowercase b. So it's 59 million light years distant. The key to it is it's a beautiful edge on. I captured it last time we did some imaging about 10 days ago, and I'll want to compare it with that image if at all possible. So I'm going to have to give it about a half an hour to be able to get the sky dark enough before I begin, but I thought I would let you have a look at where we're going to start, and then after that I'm going to skip around looking for galaxies of interest. I want to figure out what the faintest galaxy we can make out tonight will be, which I think will be about magnitude 16 to 16.5, and I do want to look at galaxies that are well presented and in the 13th and brighter magnitude range. So that will be the goal for the night, and it'll just be expeditionary. We're not going to be doing anything in sequence. I'm going to have to wait till next November or so to do that, to continue the NGC series. But we are up to NGC 1000, so later in the evening, maybe in October or November, I should be able to resume the NGC sequential series. But for tonight, let's go after some sweeties. Well, it's not quite sky dark, But here's our view of NGC 4216. It's right in the middle of the field. I've aligned to it because generally you get better alignments when you go to deep sky studies than you do with stars. Been my experience, probably due to their real motion in space. Look at the extension on that beautiful edge-on NGC 4216, galaxy in Virgo. 10th magnitude, 7.8 by 1.8 arc-minute spiral with a bar and a lowercase b. It's 59 million light years distant. We're at right ascension 121554 and declination 130859, and we're getting a very decent view. Screen flatness looks pretty good, although it's darker to the bottom. I may end up repositioning the screen slightly. I may have to plug in the battery. We're down 1 bar, but I don't expect to be spending a lot of time out tonight doing deep sky. There are clouds to the south. There's a nice hole in the sky overhead. Now we're going to leap ahead to the next study. So why don't you look at that one while I continue going through, looking for other candidates. Ooh, there's another galaxy in Canis Venatici, 4217, magnitude 11.2. Large, 418 by 1.5 arc minutes. Should give a good view itself. Let's go check that sweetie out. My mistake. 4217 was too far north to get a good view. Instead, we've pressed through a number of them that were further north, above 40 degrees in northern declination. 45 is usually my limit. What we're looking at now is NGC 4222. It's a galaxy in common Berenices, magnitude 13.3. It's got some nice extension on this 13th magnitude galaxy, 3.1 by 0.5 arc minutes, which means it's a 6:1 aspect ratioed edge-on galaxy, ghostly visioned right there in the middle of the screen. This is a spiral with a class C, so it's 3 times removed from the lenticular class Z. 61 million light years distant. There's some distortions to it. It's also a class D. We are getting a bit of a view, and let's see. I'm going to let it develop a little further while I skip ahead. Remember, tonight I want to be able to pick out some larger. Here's a fairly bright galaxy. It's in Virgo, NGC 4224. We may have imaged all these in the previous evening, but that's okay. We can do it again. This is just an exploration. NGC 4224 is a galaxy again in Virgo, magnitude 11.8, 2.5 by 1.1 arc minutes, so it's a little more condensed than our 13th magnitude vision before. Spiral with a lowercase a, 83 million light years distant. It's not very big. It's probably about 50,000 light years across. We're at plus 7.5 degrees in declination, and we're getting a rather pointillistic view with some extensions to what I would describe as the 10 and 5 o'clock directions, position. Here's a nice, fairly obvious galaxy, slightly lower down in the field because we're now at plus 36 degrees. I do not believe we're getting an obstruction, but we are getting close. NGC 4228 is a galaxy in Canis Venatici. It's also NGC 4214, magnitude 9.8. Wow. 8.4 by 7.2 arc minutes, so it's a football aspected galaxy. It is an irregular, so I do believe we imaged this the other night. It's got some peculiarities to its structure. I see something that looks like a very significant H2 star forming region there, off to the 2 or 230 position. Quite a view. Let's watch it develop a little bit while I skip ahead. Remember, tonight I want to pick out some 15th magnitude galaxies if we can come across them, just to get an idea of how deep we can go. I'm skipping over quite a few as this galaxy continues to develop. Here's another nice one, NGC 4235, magnitude 11.6 and largish. This will be our last study in the 4200 series because we do want to start looking at some newbies. This is NGC 4235, another galaxy. It's in Virgo, magnitude 11.6. 3.9 by 0.9 arc minutes, so it's kind of a subobliquely shaped or super edge-on type of galaxy, spiral with a lowercase a. Precisely 100 million light years distant, which I believe its redshift is somewhere around 0.10. Maybe that's at 140. I don't have these facts memorized, but now we're getting into the redshift region where they can rely on the numbers. There was some kind of flash on the screen, and I have yet to figure out what it is. I don't know. Could be something to do with the imager. There could have been something very bright that just flashed by on the screen, but we did not see it. Maybe what I had to do is stop it at a frame there at one time. So this is a nicely aspected 11 sub-12th magnitude galaxy. We're at plus 7 degrees. I'm going to allow it to develop, and I am going to head up to 4300. I'm not going to look at any more in a 42 series. I might just get sucked in again. Let's go to 4300 as this one continues to develop on the screen. I was going to check out this galaxy the last outing 10 days ago, but the clouds rolled in, I do recall. NGC 4300 is another galaxy in Virgo. It's at plus 5.5 degrees. I was going to skip it because it's magnitude 12.9, and we pretty much, that's right on the limit of actually seeing a reasonable amount of detail. But this one has a ring. 1.5 by 0.6 arc minutes, which means it's pretty much obliquely presented, spiral with a lowercase a, that ring. And it's about as distant as the last galaxy, which is 105 million light years. So we are getting some good look at some kind of structure at this galaxy. So maybe we ought to start looking at a few 14th magnitude. This one's 12.9, a 14th magnitude galaxy, and see if we can see some structure. We're definitely into sky dark at this point. I'm going to skip around. You can continue to enjoy this view of NGC 4300 as I do so. NGC 4302 is a galaxy in Coma Berenices. Brightish, magnitude 11.6. Largish, 5.3 by 1 arc minute. Spiral with a lowercase c, so 3 times removed from the lenticular class Z. 59 million light years distant. We're at plus 14.5 degrees. I want to point out that if you, there's 2 galaxies in the field. I want to point out that if you have a 6-inch scope on a really decent night where you can see magnitude 5.5 stars, you should be able to make out the cores of 12th magnitude galaxies. And when you're doing so with the eyepiece, make sure you shift your eye around the field. That way you'll be able to get a sense of whether it's a galaxy or a very, very faint star, and possibly tease out a little bit of detail. What we're seeing here is a nice edge-on galaxy, which is probably NGC 4302 here, and there's a neighboring oblate galaxy which perhaps should be somewhere in this series. Enjoy the view as I look for the next study of interest. Wow. Let's check this next baby out. It's also known as Messier 61. Well, we're not looking for this edge-on spiral here. We're looking for, oh, that's not A. Anyway, this is probably our study right here. Yeah, the aspect ratio is right. This is NGC 4307. What I really wanted to turn up was A, so it should be somewhere in the field. It's a much fainter galaxy, but this 4307, excuse me, 7 galaxy in Virgo is magnitude 12, 3.5 by 0.8 arc minutes. Nicely presented edge-on spiral with a bar, 57 million light years distant. We're at plus 9 degrees. Now what I actually intended to go to was 4307A. So I'm going to go ahead and press it because it should be a neighbor. Let's see if that's what happens. Didn't move at all. Let's go back and get some data on 4307A. So look in there and see if you can turn up a 15th magnitude galaxy for me while I'm looking at this. 307, enter, then next, because it didn't move at all. Okay, NGC 4307A is a satellite galaxy of 4307. It's magnitude 15.5, 0.9 by 0.7 arc minutes. Now, I'm not really seeing it on the screen. Maybe it's up there. It's just a little hard. I would expect to be able to see this galaxy on the screen. I'm going to punch the go to button once again to see if there's any motion, but it is a 0.9 by 0.7 arc minute spiral with a bar, lowercase c. Can't be a neighbor because this baby is 259 million light years distant. So I'm going to press go to. Let's see if it jumps at all. No tick whatsoever. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out on this one now, and maybe we'll be able to make this sweetie out on the screen. Well, maybe it did jump, or there's clouds rolling in. Yeah, we got clouds rolling in, so we lost our 12th magnitude galaxy. We may have to bail on this evening. Let me go through the list and see if I can turn up something. And maybe the clouds will dissipate in a little bit. But we may have to bail. Hold on there for a second. Okay, I'm trying to beat the clouds by leaping to NGC 4602. I'll give you some data on it, but I think the clouds are already there. I'll give you the data anyway, so you'll know why I selected it. So that was 4602. And we've already lost it. You might have had a brief view of it at the beginning of the screen. Anyway, I'll tell you about it. NGC 4602, galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 11.8, 3 by 1 arc minute spiral with a bar and a lowercase bc. So it's 2.5 times removed from Z, lenticular class, 111 million light years distant. We're at -5 and a right ascension of 1240. I'll try to skip now. Those clouds are really quite rolling in. I might skip ahead to something like 5,000 and see what might be out there. So just hang with me. I'd like to get a final view before we carpe noctem out. Sorry, folks. The clouds are outracing the right ascension. I've got clouds visible everywhere, so we'll have to be satisfied with the fact that we even got out this evening, even though the moon is now waxing once again, and there are projections for clear skies beginning tomorrow, maybe the day after that. We caught some holes tonight. We should be thankful for that. And we did have some beautiful views of galaxies we had seen earlier, as well as a few newbies, culminating on this date. The new moon cycle, May 7. I'm knocking off. It's right. I started at about 9:15. I'm knocking off at about 9:35. At least we got 20 minutes of views. And we had a chance earlier in the evening to redo the alignments and get a better sense of learning something. Like, make sure you clear out the old parameters, verify that before you try to do another alignment with model with the scope. Carpe noctem.